Ministry. The country now hopes to start exporting 4,000 barrels of crude oil daily by June 2017. I earlier spoke to Powell Maimba, who is the chairperson of Petroleum Institute of East Africa, on what really this would mean for Kenya and the East African region at large. Take a look. Thank you for making time for us. And this approval, of course, has brought a lot of excitement that finally this is happening.
Yes.
But how soon is this happening?
Well, first I'd like to pass my condolences to the families of the children that have passed on
It's
with the
very
road accident.
important. Yeah.
And that should not happen. Coming to the issue of the oil production, the government is planning to start next year in June. As soon as the process starts, we should start seeing the activities taking place. Now, just a point of correction, the crude will not be refined in Mombasa. It will be re-exported. So the refinery is not going to restart up for processing. The whole crude that will be produced at the initial phase will be exported.
What are these activities that we expect to be seeing, of course, in the run-up to us finally producing this oil?
Yeah, look, there are a number of activities. The government has come with two plans, which makes sense. The first one is to test the production of crude and use the system into Mombasa. And that's the first test. The second one is the full production, which is going to take the crude through the pipeline to Lamu. As that process develops, the government wants to test this side of the logistic equation. Now, the activities that will happen in between is already noted about the road construction, the rail upgrade, the tankers, offloading facilities in Mombasa. Those activities will take place between now and June next year. As soon as those logistical activities are done, then the test of running the crude down to Mombasa starts. Yes.
Any other ordinary Kenyan watching and probably getting news that the cabinet has approved this process,
Yes.
one of the questions that they ask themselves is, especially for motorists, are we now going to pay less for oil? How long would it take before Kenyans start reaping from what is in their country?
Yes. Yeah.
so to
Look,
speak?
I wouldn't say that when it starts next year, the pump prices will go down. Already, the country enjoying the best pump prices by importation. The issue of crude production and start moving it to Mombasa has nothing to do with the pump price. It is everything to do with the future economic change for Kenya. And this process is going to realign the country to different levels. Not only for the pump price or the cost of fuel coming down, is basically another revenue source for the country. Currently, the country relies on tea, coffee, flowers, but this will be another one which will help the country generate revenue.
How well is this expected to play out?
Well, the estimate is that the country should be able to generate at its peak about $9 billion per annum in income from exporting the oil. And that changes the whole landscape of this country. The other activity that will come through, for example, the roads are being done, which could have not been done before.
Yes.
Transport system, you have trucks. The transporters will find work and drivers. Then the rail system appears again, then you have got SGR on the other side. So there are a lot of ancillary benefits to the country by virtue of starting this process.
So how do we position ourselves? We're not the only ones who are thinking about this. Uganda
True.
is going
Yes.
alone as well.
Yes.
Our neighbors,
Yes.
various of our neighbors are going alone. How do we position ourselves as Kenya, of course, to emerge top
Yes,
in this particular field?
Well, that's why the cabinet has approved the two-phase approach. So Uganda is still struggling to start. If you remember, Uganda discovered its oil a few years back, and Kenya followed. The difference is Kenya wants to start executing the production process through whichever means. Most of the guys will come to you, or the people may come with opinion that this is not going to work, or it's going to cost the country a lot of money. How soon is it going to happen? But the reality is the system is going to start. Once that system starts, it's very difficult to stop it. And as you said, we are going to be ahead of Uganda by virtue of starting this process. So when you're ahead of Uganda, Uganda will start learning from us. whatever we do is going to be a lesson to them and will be ahead of the game. So the cabinet approval yesterday of the two approach is actually basically putting Kenya into the front of oil production compared to Uganda, who are still trying to think about how are they going to take the crude.
And what exactly does this mean for the other East African region countries? How will this impact them?
Well, Kenya is a key player to the East African region, and the activities that will happen in Kenya economically will start impacting countries like Southern Sudan, Rwanda, Burundi, including Uganda itself. So you find out that as a region, as East Africa, it becomes more and more attractive. Possibly it's going to also facilitate the Ugandan activities of building a new refinery. And a lot of people say it can be done. Basically what's coming out here that it can be done, and if Kenya can do it, why can't we do it? So East Africa will start aligning itself into the equation of oil production and export.
Paul, when we talk about 2,000 to 4,000 barrels,
Yes.
production of 2,000 to 4,000 barrels a day,
Yes.
kindly just to break it down for us,
Yes.
for the viewer at home, what
Yes.
exactly does this mean?
Well, it's not a significant volume. 2,000, 4,000 barrels per day is very little if you look at the world scale. There are countries producing 200,000, 300,000 to a million barrels per day.
Yeah.
So our equation of 2,000 to 4,000 is it's a drop in a huge ocean. Okay, so if you take that scale, it's very small. However, if you look at the intent, what I look mostly when we sit as PIA is what's the intention of the government. Because the government's role is to create a condition whereby it encourages other investors participate into the equation. So the 2,000, 4,000 is not significant. It may not change much in terms of the economic activities. But as that process starts, it starts building on a bigger scale activities.
But finally, just to quickly, we have the issue of the oil costs. Nigeria is among the biggest producers, but they're not enjoying the resources they have. How do we ensure that this so-called oil cost does not catch up with us?
Well, oil cost comes with a background, how you start the whole thing. Oil is natural resource. It comes from the communities, and sometimes if you look at the Nigerian scenario is that the big people or the government and the other guys came through the process and got the oil and leave the people around that area poor. And therefore it creates unnecessary tension and attacks. The difference with the Kenya process is there's already a process of engaging the communities around Turkana and around the route when the oil, which the oil is going to pass. Through that process of engagement, and currently the government has passed the bill on the Energy Act and oil exploration, all that process helps engage the communities in the societies and prevent the possible tension. So in Kenya's scenario, I don't see things to get out of control. Look, when it happened in Nigeria and others, there are many other countries that produce oil, but nothing happens. Saudi Arabia is one of it, there's no war. America produces oil, there's no war. It's just a few countries in Africa that are associated with that, and you cannot use that as a general equation.